And he was like, this is just weird. Like the boat feels weird. Like it doesn't make sense what's happening, the movement of the boat.
You know, it put things in perspective as we're heading across the Pacific that, you know, how big the problem is.
Apparent Winds, an adventure of a lifetime. A global expedition dedicated to collecting stories of environmental and cultural preservation while conducting marine research aboard sailing vessel Resilience.
So getting the boat ready to depart Panama was a whole lot, right? It's this departure that we've been planning for years, really. I mean, all of this stuff, you know, being on the boat and everything that we're doing with Resilience is, we're now talking about years of planning. Besides all that planning and the regular stuff that comes with departing to go across the ocean, we had issues. We had our refrigeration being the major one, but we had other ones as well.
And we were worried we wouldn't be able to leave because our refrigerator wasn't ready. And so it was just back and forth from the refrigerator store to the grocery store, just trying to get ready. And there was a lot to do to prepare.
We pushed through a lot of the work that we had to do on the boat. You know, the whole crew got together. We had to stay focused on departing Panama and departing in good shape. So we left.
Departed Panama.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be out at sea now and to be on our passage.
Kira just asked how somebody felt about being at sea for a month. Is it going to be a month? I was told 3 weeks.
I don't think it's like registered in my brain that we're sailing for 30 days. That's a long time.
Once you leave that dock and you're out there, it's much more a feeling of a coming home. We hadn't really even passed like the anchored ships outside the entrance to the Panama Canal before we started seeing tons of birds, whales, dolphin, and that sort of felt like this big welcoming into the Pacific Ocean. You know, that you're doing something right. When dolphins are at the bow, you feel like you're doing something right. So, you know, sailing with us on this passage, we had Kira and Ellie and I, you know, as our sort of core crew. We had my father with us, and we had my buddy Matthew. Matthew's a good friend from Charleston, or originally at least. Now he's moved on and I've moved on, but really great guy and a lot of fun to have around, and I was really excited to have him. My dad came in really right before it was time to go, and to cross the Pacific with me, you know, for us to do it together, that's just, it's an opportunity that a lot of people obviously don't have. Even if you're sailors or come from a family of sailors, to be able to cross the ocean with a parent, with your dad, is really special.
This has been interesting because it's time is sort of in a warp when you're out here, it seems to me. But what makes all the difference, I think, is the people that we're sailing with.
You know, it was a quiet, easy passage towards the Galapagos. We didn't even put the mizzen up. We kept the tent on the aft deck. People could hang out in the hammocks, read, settle in. And it's sort of finally when we got into the Galapagos and we first saw land, we were excited, we were enjoying it. The wind also started to pick up. So we were able to pull up the mizzen, drop the sunshade off the aft deck, pull out our sails and start sailing. We started catching fish, which was really exciting. We had a marlin on the line at one point that got off, and we had caught some other fish on our way through. We didn't stop in the Galapagos at all. That wasn't part of our program for this trip. Although, you know, we made promises to each other that we'd come back another way, another time. But we sailed through the Galapagos in one day. And then as sun was setting, we made our way through. We saw the last land that we would see, and made our way down back to the wind, crossing the equator right before that, and then made our way south to the trade winds. Right as we left, we started getting boobies landing on our bow, pulpit and whatnot, and maybe on a spreader on the mast. It was cool, and they'd go away and go fish, and it was fun to watch them fish. That never gets old. By the end of the crossing, I mean, we had birds the entire time, and by the end of the crossing, we had so much bird poop on the boat. We had probably 10 boobies at a time, just hanging out in the boat, getting a ride to the Marquesas. Our whole bow, like we tried to keep it clean, and we couldn't. We tried to shoo them away, they'd come back. We tried putting up fishing line around so they couldn't land. They still did. They'd land on our mizzen mast and then just poop all over the sail, poop all over our aft deck, poop all over some of it made it into our room because our hatch would be kind of cracked open. It would splatter everywhere. It was like somebody dropping gallons of paint from the top of the mast down onto everything. But I was ready to have them off the boat after a certain point.
Well, Kira,
Hello.
what happened?
So I was just filming Trip. He's taking apart the autopilot ramp to replace the hydraulic fluid, and he took out one part of the ram. All was fine. I was filming him. He said, "This part's going to be the messy part," and I was about to ask, "Should I leave? Am I going to get sprayed?" And then
Sorry. This stuff.
she's just gonna take her second shower. And I wiped off as much as I could, but I still couldn't get enough oil off my feet that I was leaving footprints on the deck. So now I'm walking around with rags between my toes just so I can get to the shower, so I don't ruin the decks. But there's a whole bunch of Kira footprints on the aft deck. Just
It's weird. Days go by so quickly. The month, if you're at a month at sea, goes by so quickly. You kind of lose your normal sense of time. And, so the days flew by. And then on top of that, we had stuff going on. I was working for Apparent Winds, doing a lot of stuff on the computer, emails, correspondence, bookkeeping, whatever it might be. Matthew still had to keep up with his job doing customs brokerage in the middle of a time where tariffs were going left and right, and he had no idea what was happening. So, it's too, that's the beauty and downfall of having internet is he could do this trip and work, but also, you're tied into this outside world of all these things that affect us. My father's an architect, and so he was designing, and still is, or I guess now he just broke ground, but was designing a house. And so he was working at the salon table, drafting up new plans for this house and working on projects. Yeah. So when we got down to the trade winds, it was pretty much the jib, mizzen, and a spinnaker. And for us, we had an old spinnaker that was donated to us from an old sail loft, North Sails loft, that they just had it sitting around for a while that could kind of fit our boat. It was a little small, but would work. We had an old spinnaker from a TP52 that was donated, and actually an awesome spinnaker, but really lightweight. And a TP52 is a very light racing boat, and we're very heavy. And so that ended up causing problems for us. And then we had a mizzen staysail that we later would come to call Granny, that ended up becoming a spinnaker for us at the end of the passage. But what happened is the North sail, we put it up, and then one day it just blew out. It just, from the center of the sail, just, I think if you looked one way, you look at it, you see the sail, you look one way, look back, it was just shreds. You could see the tape around the edge of the sail, the hemming, but no sail, just blown out. And so we got that back up aboard, and that was a mess. And we had blown out, actually before that, our TP52 spinnaker. That was our first choice. We put it up as a beautiful sail, huge, brought us in light air, would give us good speed, and we thought, okay, this is a lot to handle, but perfect. Perfect for light air. The spinnaker is a lightweight, so if you're rolling it all, it doesn't kind of flog like a heavy jib would or a heavy Genoa. It's heavy material, so the gravitational pull of that heavy material comes down and it just gets messy. A spinnaker stays up and light, and it's beautiful. And that TP52 spinnaker, we were riding it one afternoon and it started to rip. And so we took it down, and so that we could still salvage it later on, but that was out. So we were down the TP52 spinnaker, we were down the North Sail spinnaker, and then we had Granny. So this old mizzen staysail that we've had on this boat for a very long time. It was on this boat way longer. It's the first time we really even brought it out, but it's all we had left. And so this like very undersized mizzen staysail that turned spinnaker was what got us to the Marquesas. And it's in rough shape. It was in rough shape going across. I really just expected it to blow out, and it just never did. Maybe the first night even out of the Galapagos that we were heading south, that we started seeing lights on the horizon. One or two maybe, then 3 or 4. And then all of a sudden our AIS was just covered with boats. The horizon was covered with lights. It was like we were outside Panama still, except for almost brighter, as far as light pollution. It's like the whole night sky was lit up. And not just on one side of us or the other side, but all the way around us. And we realized, looking at the AIS and looking at all these boats, is that we found ourselves in the middle of a massive, absolutely incredibly disgustingly massive fishing fleet. And not only fishing vessels everywhere, but also cargo vessels that were supplying fuel and taking on fish so that those fishing boats could stay. So you have this, when you talk about a fishing fleet, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of vessels in a small area, all doing all sorts of fishing. Support vessels so that they can go non-stop, and taking up a part of the ocean. We sailed through this fishing fleet for days and days. It was just fishing boats all around us. There was no way to avoid going through a line of them, and it's the middle of the night, and we have fishing vessels all around us that we're having to dodge, work our way through. And okay, so you have this massive fishing fleet, and then you have, as we passed and we got downwind of them especially, but the whole ocean there was littered with light bulbs, water bottles, and then one night, I come up and things feel weird. The sails are kind of flapping a little bit, the boat's moving strangely.
And he was like, this is just weird. Like, the boat feels weird. Like, it doesn't make sense what's happening, the movement of the boat. And so he grabbed a flashlight.
And I look and realize that we had a net caught on our rudder.
And then it was all hands on deck. He had me go grab Maddie because it was massive net. And he started pulling in the fishing line first to see if we could maybe get a hold of this net to try and pull it up on deck, see if we could get the marine debris out of the ocean. But it was so massive. They tried to get the fishing line from the back of the boat to this winch here, and they could barely get it to the winch. And then once it was on the winch, they couldn't really even use it they couldn't wrap it around. It was just so tight. There was so much pressure, and it was dangerous.
But we were able to cut it off with time. It took a while, and we ended up getting it figured out. But to have the fishing fleets and the light pollution, the noise pollution, knowing that there are so many fish being taken from the ocean at a wildly irresponsible rate is already hard. And then you have the pollution on top of it, of the water bottles and the light bulbs, and then we get a fishing net caught on our rudder. It's just, it put things in perspective as we're heading across the Pacific, that how big the problem is.
studying marine biology, you read about all the problems in the ocean. You read about marine debris, you read about ghost nets. But to actually have the experience of like, wow, these are out there and they are a problem. Like, we're just one tiny boat moving through the ocean. And for a net to catch on us, like one random point in the ocean, there must be a lot of nets out there. People worry about the economy. People worry about jobs. But people also need to understand that we are harvesting the ocean at an unsustainable rate. And we are going to lose those jobs if we continue the way we go.
The world needs to know how bad it is, and it's really bad. We knew overfishing and the fishing fleets and all that was an issue years and years and years ago. And it's only grown, and they're only going further out. So, the peace I was looking for at sea, it wasn't the same. I didn't get that the same way I did on J. Henry, just because the rest of the trip we found those plastic water bottles. I mean, all the way into the Pacific and deep into the Pacific, we've been finding those same water bottles, and every single time it reminds me of the same thing. These fishing fleets are out there taking a lot of fish, and a lot more. At the end of a time crossing an ocean like this, everybody has changed a little bit, and it's really sweet. We get to talk about it and think about it. Some of us were going back to life back in the States. Some of us were staying, but about to experience a whole new world and a whole new part of the world.
So we arrived into Ivaoa first thing in the morning.
We had a little squall right as we were arriving. The whole sky was like this golden yellow. I mean, it was absolutely gorgeous. And then we turned up in the wind to drop our sail and turn on the engine, get our anchors ready.
I think Kira came down to get me and was like, okay, we're here, like we're gonna drop anchor. We need everybody on deck. It was pouring rain. So it was like raining, I'm in my pajamas, we're like dropping anchor. But to come up like on deck and just see like huge mountains, I've just never seen anything like that before.
But it was kind of like surreal. Like it was like kind of like a pinch yourself, like this isn't real moment, because it was just like so beautiful and wild looking, and the mountains are just, it really feels like rocks just popped up out of the ocean, and like in a really violent way. The mountains are so like sheer there. I feel like you can't really describe it, you just have to see it.
That was big. Anchoring resilience in Ivaoa, kind of right in the same area where we had J. Henry, years before. But instead it's this huge boat and this whole mission and all this energy behind it. That was big.
I'd been wanting to go to French Polynesia for so long. Even before I met Tripp, he asked me on our first date, where's the next place you want to go? I know you're a big traveler. And I said, French Polynesia. And he has been talking about it ever since and just making me jealous. And so it was so awesome to finally go there and be like, whoa, this is worth the wait.
It took 3 years and a 25-day passage to make it here. Now, a new chapter begins. This is Oceana. Stay tuned for more episodes and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to access more content and help us keep filming going, please join us on Patreon. There's a link in the bio and description below.